We've got a lot of stories coming in as current events that could have large implications going into the November elections. This is one that we're going to stay tuned into all the way till November. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. We've got some current events that are just too big to not really talk about, especially with the elections coming up this November. To talk about that, we actually have our legislative director in studio today. You can also find him on the Firing Line Radio, which is on every Saturday at 1 p.m. on AM 590 The Answer. That is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And guys, before we get into this, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to these videos. That like button is really helping us with the algorithm lately, so be sure to smash it. We're trying to get this information out to as many people as possible. Like I said, as we're heading into these November elections, we want people to be as educated as possible and have the Second Amendment as a priority. So, Rick, I would ask you your thoughts on the first question, but I'm actually going to let Joe Biden do the preview here. Jacob, can you go ahead and roll this clip for me?
And like I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. We don't have that. We haven't.
So he kind of says it himself, although this happened in 2021 when he said this, but obviously what's going on right now, Joe Biden has been diagnosed with COVID, or he's tested positive for COVID. Is this potentially something that he predicted in 2021? He's potentially stepping aside. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the ramifications for the Democratic Party going into November.
Well, I think for one thing, there's a lot of instability when a candidate, whether he projects, a couple of years ago and the process we see right now, I think there's a lot of instability, which America doesn't need right now. We need unity. We need an election that has all the things in it that would tell you that this was a real election, a fair election. I think, obviously, there's a couple of candidates out there from start to finish who have tried to do that. He's not one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, the real reason that I bring this up is because of the implications here in California. One of the people that has been speculating as having the potential for a national candidacy, that is Gavin Newsom. Now, there are lots of ways that we can look at California as kind of being a joke right now as far as the budget is concerned, a lot of the wildlife issues that we have, and of course, what we focus on, the crazy legislation coming out of Sacramento in regards to our Second Amendment rights. What does it look like as Gavin Newsom as a potential national candidate here, and what would that mean for the rest of the country?
I think there's a couple ways, Kevin, that we can look at that will bring some clarity. First off, we call it the K Street rumor mill. K Street's one of the big streets in Sacramento where rumors are often heard. That has been live for the better part of a year with Governor Newsom's leaving to go for a national position. So I think if you talk to most people in both parties up in Sacramento, we have felt like the governor had 9 toes out and 1 toe in the state. And that everything he's been doing is based on his idea that he can take this across. You can go back to watching him fight DeSantis. He was out there definitely campaigning to say California is a better example of where the nation should be, which for the people in the other 49 states that might be watching this, that should be absolutely earth-shatteringly frightening for you to think that. Second is that's why he went to China and ditched California in a crisis moment so he could go over there and try to get his, quote, chops as an international player, in which I will say many people felt like he sold out even more of California to a foreign actor. And now we're in a situation that, we can go down a laundry list of things that are going wrong in California. It's why we have propositions on the ballot to try to write it. But, I mean, if you're a person that's worried about public safety, you do not feel safe under Gavin Newsom. Statewide, there's numerous polls taken from all sorts of different political positions. If you don't like paying the highest taxes in the nation, you're probably leaving California because we have it. If you don't want to be in a state where there's not any really good jobs because all those employers are exiting California because of its policies, again, you don't want to be in California. This is what Newsom would bring. And yeah, you see the DNC looking at it. And ironically, Kevin, you brought up, politicians, but you got Becerra, a former attorney general back there. You've got another former attorney general who's the vice president, who everybody's like, yeah, okay, so if Biden steps down, if he's removed by enacting the Constitution, however that pans out, we're not so sure. Number two can be number one. Therefore, let's go to the bench. And Gavin Newsom's part of that bench, along with Governor Whitmer, I would argue.
Sure. So, I mean, certainly for those people throughout the rest of the country, there's definitely something to be concerned about. What exactly has that unfolded, and what does that mean for like our California legislature? You characterized Gavin Newsom as having 9 toes out the door. How has that influenced the legislature with the laws they're trying to pass this year?
It's been very difficult. I mean, he's had some of his signature legislature that he owns that people are very divided on as far as parental rights go is one of those areas. You also have areas of where the crime issue is very, very big. You've had sheriffs up and down the state fighting him. You have so many people in this fight, and you have people in his own party that are really upset because Gavin Newsom has said, follow me. We're going to go up this hill. We're going to go try. Oh, I'm being called to maybe go to the White House. And he steps out and says, just kidding. Well, those people a lot of them are in very tight races for re-election right now in California. And so there's a lot of political ground shifting. I think for our community, that's a positive because there's a chance to break a supermajority right now.
Well, I know that the sheriffs have been very outspoken, specifically Sheriff Chad Bianco. He's been going on YouTube shows and doing press conferences just trying to alert people of how dangerous some of these crime sprees are throughout the state. One that I can think of that's actually happened in, I think, San Diego, Orange County, Ventura, and LA County. We currently had a spree of, I think, 6 or 7 individuals who were going out and stealing cars. They were using them as battering rams to get into FFLs. I think it was maybe 7 or 8 different gun stores hit, 300 firearms taken, hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage, all sorts of stuff like this. And I just can't help but look back and think to myself, what is the legislation even for? If it's not stopping stuff like this, who is the legislation actually curbing? I think about this lawsuit that we have, Richards v. Newsom, which is on SB 1327, I believe is the name, that requires mandatory surveillance within stores. But that didn't help bring these arrests about. In your experience, I'm just sort of curious, when these things happen throughout the state, are legislators looking at it concerned, saying we need to actually bring fixes to these issues?
Legislators, many of them, I feel, have been duped into believing that their constituents are perfectly happy and content. Part of that's because across the board, not just our issues, Kevin, but across the board, people don't seem to realize that their First Amendment right includes this one, the right to redress government, the right to go to your leaders and say this is wrong. People think, well, I don't have the right to go do that. I work for them. No, they're called public servants because they work for the public. You have the right and should be exercising that right quite often right now to go to your legislator's office and say, hey, in your district, in your neighborhood, this is completely unacceptable and I don't like it and I will work against this person getting reelected if they don't change it. That is something we should be doing. But to an earlier point you made, when you're talking about the crime levels, you're talking about all these things are going on. It seems like the legislature would do something. Kevin, as you know, and I've talked quite extensively around the state about this, we have multiple camps of people that have come to this country illegally, armed to the tooth, like little tactical forces to grow illegal marijuana, move fentanyl, move other drugs. We've had game wardens try to go after them and stuff. This governor has never done. These are people from foreign governments that entered here illegally. And we're not talking slipping across the border, coming in from the sea on panga boats who have set up shop up and down the state. The governor knows it. One of the dogs that was injured badly was honored in front of the entire legislature. So the legislature can't say, oh, well, we didn't know. No, they know. And they're doing nothing about it. In other parts of the world, with far less freedom-minded governments, with far less constitutional powers, that's considered an act of war. This governor says, no, but let me be president of the United States. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I guess looking at the well, you can't really say it's a turn because it's been over time, but just sort of looking at the state of California, you would have hoped that next year and the year after would have been Gavin Newsom's swan song. Obviously, he's got larger plans. Hopefully, the rest of the country doesn't have to endure that. I'm just kind of curious, though, combining all of these things together, looking towards November, what are your final thoughts? What would be your message to the voter?
My message to the voter would be pay attention. Get involved, go to your local offices and start telling them. There's a lot of people, I would say, that are not far to the left as you may think, and some people that aren't as far to the right as you may think, that if you go and talk to them, they're going to meet you in the middle and they're going to take your concerns and they're actually going to work on them. But if you don't go talk, then they're going to be led to believe by the elites that there is nobody to support them.
Well, I'm sure there won't be any shortage of people paying attention, at least as far as the presidential race is concerned. We're going to do as much as we can to draw attention to what's happening here in California. We've already had some good election results as far as anti-Second Amendment legislators getting primaried. There's more work that we can do to make sure more of these politicians are replaced up in Sacramento. Rick, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with us in studio today.
Always, and I look forward to doing this in November during the election.
Absolutely can't wait for that live stream, not even a little bit. And guys, if you like videos like this, you want to continue seeing this conversation, you want to stay plugged in as we get closer to the election, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It's also a direct way that you can contribute to the Second Amendment litigation and legislative efforts that we go through here in California. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you on the next one.